Oh, bud, you're overachieving there. Alright, we're back on the 850J again today. If you guys have not seen, there's a couple of videos on this tractor already. They'll be in the description down below. First video was, we got this thing unloaded off a trailer. This is an in-op, was not running. It had all kinds of stuff that was loose on it. Fuel lines were not hooked up the right way. Bolts are loose. There was no bolts in the flywheel housing. All sorts of stuff was messed up. Motor mount bolts is out of it and all kinds of good stuff. But we did get it cranking in that first video, but it was cranking over real slow and building up pressure. We found out that right track was trying to turn with the brakes on. So the second video, we got it jacked up. We actually got the engine running, kind of figured out what was going on with the track. There's a part on the pump that's broke. But it didn't sound good. We had it run for a couple minutes. It was chugging out blow by. Turbo was rattling in. I'll show you that turbo here after a bit. And it was starting to knock quite a bit. So we elected to shut it off outside. We drug the thing in the shop, yanked the motor out, and we found a bunch of carnage in it. I'll show you some pictures of inside the oil pan here in this next clip.
Copper don't look good.
He's got metal everywhere.
See the copper down there?
Oh, there's chunks of thrust bearings in there.
But they might be able to do a 10 and a 20.
There's a rod bearing. They're not supposed to look like that. They're about half that thickness. Alright, as you guys seen, there's a bunch of carnage going on there. Here's the rod bearing. So they run this thing without oil. When I pulled the codes up in the first video, 3 hours back, it showed a low oil pressure warning that was stored in the computer. So when we got this thing, there's no plugs in the drain pan. And I'm thinking the auction company probably tried to start it, or somebody in the military with no oil in it and run it for a while. Anyway, it spun the rod bearings. The main bearings did not spin in the block. So what our plan of attack is here today, we're going to take this whole thing, strip it apart, and see what parts are good, what parts are not. The last one of these motors I bought from Deere was about $22,000. They've raised since then about $30,000. So we're going to try to avoid that and try to fix this one. And you guys not seeing, I did buy a new parts washer. That's in another video too. I'll link that down in the description. But we picked that up here this past weekend. There's kind of a quick video of that, unboxing it, getting it working. But we're going to use that to clean up a bunch of parts and stuff. But yeah, it's a freaking mess. So don't know what we're going to do with the crank yet. We'll have to get out and do some measuring. I know they only make a 11 thousandths undersized bearing for the rods. They make a 11 and a 22 on the mains. The mains look pretty good, but I'm worried about these may not clean up, so we may have to get another crankshaft. The rods, of course, are probably no good. I'm not sure about the cam. It doesn't look the best, so we've got to get this thing completely stripped out. But we do know it runs, so we know the fuel system and stuff's good. So, but there's a bunch of stuff missing. You guys remember the last video when I pulled this thing out, this bolt was actually snapped off into the housing, and this one was missing. I don't know if you guys can see that right there, but that thing is stripped out. There's a crack right there. Hoover, for some reason, they took this motor out and put it back in there. Didn't put it back in there right. I don't know. Freaking Army mechanics or something, but who knows? They put some young kid on, didn't know what he's doing. But anyway, we're here to fix the problem. So whoever touched this whole section, it's completely messed up. You know, there's only 2 bolts in the air compressor. This thing over here is completely loose. You know, there's bolts missing out of that. I mean, they had it back together. I was trying to start. There's fuel lines that were hooked up. The pressure line was going back to return. There's all kinds of issues going on. So motor mount bolts were not even tight. So anyway, we're here to fix it, aren't we?
Yep.
So got Hunter today. We're going to start stripping this thing down, and we're going to strip this block plumb down bare because we need to get it cleaned up because all that metal and stuff that was in that oil pan more than likely has got through this engine. So we've already got the main caps off over here. We may have to put a couple of those back on to spin it. We actually washed these in the parts washer this past weekend, but we got the oil pump over here. We'll probably just take it apart and look at it. I'm guessing it's probably not looking real good, so we may have to get a new one of those. We got to get all that stuff cleaned up. So you ready to start yanking that flywheel housing off?
Yep.
steel. Yeah. So if you guys can see here, this is actually a plastic drive coupling that couples to the hydrostatic pumps that drives the pumps back here. And they've kind of boogered this thing up trying to put that motor back in. I don't feel good about that. We'll probably have to order a new one of those. That's all it holds, 205 horsepower between that and the pump's kind of crazy, ain't it?
It's kind of scary too.
Yeah. Well, we'll unbolt that. Once we get everything apart, we're going to get a list together and see what all parts we need. Try to get a price list too, so maybe you guys can kind of follow along and we'll see what this is going to cost altogether. Go ahead there, Hunter. Hold on a second. Okay. Big old chunk of metal. Let's set her on the floor over there. That's a big old chunk of metal. Apply some dowels on her. Alright, we got it rolled back over. We got the back accessory drive off. That's the rear main seal there. I'll show you guys this turbo if you didn't see this in the last video. I don't think that's supposed to be like that.
Should not be like that.
No. So that's another good indication of running without any oil for a while. Oh my, where do you want to start at?
Just about anywhere, I guess.
Anywhere. Start at the front, yank all this stuff off. And we'll get the turbo. We gotta yank it. We gotta strip it to nothing. And then we gotta remember how it all goes back together too. That's always a good part. This compressor is gonna be junk. We'll probably put new pulleys on it. We'll save these.
Is the alternator any good?
We'll probably put a new one on because they usually go bad. Like this is draggy here. This thing's been sitting. This is like a 1,000-hour motor too. If anybody's asking, I think the tractor's got 1,000 or 1,100 hours on it, but.
Should there be a bolt in there somewhere?
Oh yeah, we took it out to get it out, but they didn't have one in there. And you know, there probably should be some more bolts in like this part here. That's how it was on the tractor. Crazy.
That's for easy belt takeoff.
Yeah, I don't know who worked on this, but we need to stay away from dozers for sure. But we're gonna set you guys up in time lapse. We're just gonna start throwing parts off. When we get close to getting that head off, we'll bring you guys back in there and we can see where all the carnage takes place maybe. Alright, we got the front of it stripped off. We still got the cam gear in there, the fuel pump. I may try to leave that fuel pump on there because there's no oil that really gets in there. So this stuff's a mess so far. You guys see all this? There's some bearing material right there. This is all nasty stuff. We're going to be replacing bearings and doing some parts washing for sure. Good times ahead. So we got the front end off. Hunter's gonna start on the top end now, aren't we? We're just kind of labeling stuff as we go. Top end, flywheel housing. I'm writing down parts that we need as we go. That is if everything else looks good so far. So the good thing, those bearings, the copper is what come apart in them. I don't see anything, like it's not tore anything up in here yet. So luckily I shut it off quick enough. But we're gonna start working on this turbo and get the EGR cooler off. I don't know if we'll take the exhaust manifold off. We probably will, just to see what's going on in there. We don't really need to yet. We'll get all the stuff stripped from here up. We gotta get that turbo off for sure because it's junk. We can get all the injection lines off, and we'll get that top off, and we'll have you guys peek back in here.
Like this. Like this.
Alright, got the turbo off, manifold off, looking good. We got oil running out a couple cylinders, that's not good. These things are actually little exhaust sleeves. We'll pop all those out. Shouldn't have oil and antifreeze running out the head. Should we now? See all the oil that's coming out of that freaking manifold down there. I left it down there in that pig mat. We're gonna get all this off. We're just gonna keep on keeping on. We'll pull that valve cover off. You guys can take a peek in there with us and see how it goes here. Alright, Hunter's got the bolts up valve cover. Not taking it off yet. He's taking the fuel filters off. We're gonna get some of the stuff stripped. Gonna go out that way. We'll put those bolts back in there, Hunter. I know where they go. So we're going to strip this block down so we get her all cleaned up good. We'll take this oil filter housing off here next, Hunter. There, set her underneath there. We'll have to wash it probably. We'll get this oil filter housing off. We're going to, like I say, take all this off. I already pulled all injection lines off a while ago. We're going to get her stripped down looking new here again, hopefully, so we can get it all cleaned up. Probably need to yank the injectors out. These are the tubes that actually feed the injectors. You guys will see those here in a second. These are a one-time use tube. They go in there and seal up an injector. If you guys don't know, this fuel system's real high pressure to build up like 25,000 psi of pressure, which is a lot. So you have to have a good sealing surface on those. But I don't like to take chances on those tubes because they do go inside the head. If it springs a leak, then we can't see where it's at. So you're gonna get your 18. Take that loose there.
I have to get a wrench on that one, I think.
Wrench, huh? Yeah, they just come out. There's some O-rings down here. Kind of got to wiggle it out of there. There's O-rings in here. Might have to tap it up with a hammer, but wiggle and lift up. Kind of crazy. It's just you O-rings to seal up, isn't it? There you go. You got one half of it. Look, you got green John Deere tractor paint.
Cool.
So I think they paint all these engines thinking they're going in John Deere tractors, and then we just paint black over them for construction later on. So we'll get that pipe out of there.
We didn't need that O-ring, did we? That O-ring that's just sucked in there.
Wow. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. You guys see this here? Oh my goodness. Somebody's changed oil filter on this tractor. Left the old O-ring in there and it sucked it up. Oh my gosh, sucked it up into that cavity. It's stuck in that bypass valve up there. Gosh, so that tells me that filter bypass valve, that's made so when the filter gets clogged up, it just circulates oil instead of building the, still lets it circulate but bypasses the filter basically. So Bad thing with that, it was bypassing some oil with that O-ring in there. Whoever had this thing apart is, I don't know. We'll go ahead and pull this fuel rail off here, Hunter. More 18 millimeter. We'll pop it off. This thing is a mess for sure. All right, you ready to see what's under door number 2 or 3?
Sure.
Take it off. It's just aluminum. Not super terrible. I see a little bit of metal residue. A little bit of dirt to be expected. Alright, so you guys can see we've got a wiring harness that comes in here. Actually feeds each one of these injectors, all electronically fired and actuated. And we got a normal rocker arm shaft. These are 4 valve per cylinder heads. You got 2 intake and 2 exhaust, but we'll get this little wiring harness out of here. It's kind of tedious, and then we'll pop the rocker arms off and get this cover off here and go from there. Alright, Hunter got all the injector wires off. He's got the rocker arms. Hang on, we got some bridges here that's sticking. I don't want these falling on the floor like that. Set over in the table. So what those little things are, they're actually a bridge that bridges across those 2 valves there. So we got 2 intake and 2 exhaust on each cylinder. Push rods, we probably won't worry about keeping those in line because we're going to have everything apart. It's all going to be swapped around and changed. I think I'm going to go ahead and take the injectors out. I did pull the tubes out. We'll have to keep these in order because these are all sequenced to the computer. They got a code on them right here. They're all electronic. If I did pull those injector tubes out of the block here, that actually goes in and feeds that injector right there, so it goes through that hole. It's real important when you install these. You got to make sure and hold this thing, and do not let that turn and tighten that jam nut up against it, so you don't mess up that end. So, okay, what's next? We get all these little bridges off here, and we'll put those over there, and then we can take this intake box off. This box actually just comes down to here. It's all part of the intake. We'll lift off there, and then we can get the injectors out and about be ready to pull the head off. So I'm gonna pull the push rods out too. Just look like that, nothing special. We're gonna clean all this stuff up in our parts washer over here. We got the water heating up in it, but see, I'm not gonna worry about keeping these in order because this thing's gonna be completely disassembled. We gotta set all the valve lash and all that stuff. We don't know if the lifters are any good either. They've got too much oil in them or metal in them. Camshaft's probably gonna get replaced, so I'm not gonna worry about keeping those in line at all. So, what do you think?
Good. Oh, crap.
A little gritty. Got a couple more down there. Did you got bridges?
I think so.
Got a couple here. We're getting there. I'm glad we got that parts washer. I know that.
Yeah, that's nice.
Give you guys a little look in there. All right, Hunter, I think we get 13. We'll pull off this intake box. Ready to set this off? I'll give you the heavy side.
Okay.
Oh, there's a gasket. All right, I'll give you a little better look here after we got the intake box off. You can get a Allen wrench, it's probably like 6 millimeter or something. We'll take these injector hold downs off. So this is the intake holes here. These should be nice and clean. You guys can see they're kind of black. This thing was burning oil from that turbo charger leaking. You guys see that? That shouldn't be inside there. So like I say, we got oil coming out first 3 exhaust ports. We did have the engine upside down, so that could have done some of that, but not real clean. This head's made in Germany. I don't know if they make these engines in Germany, but every time I've had one of these apart, that's what they always say. So I did go ahead and label. Watch that plastic tip up there. Yeah, you might want to use one of these long ones. What size is it?
6.
6. Use one of these long ones and get up past it. Like that. Might be a little safer. So I did go ahead and number each one of these injectors. Got them all numbered with a paint marker. Yeah, we'll get that and we'll Bust the, probably take this thermostat housing off here just to get it stripped down some. Then we'll bust all the head bolts loose. We'll start from the outsides, work our way in. They have a weird torque sequence on these engines. They actually kind of start in the middle and spiral themselves out. They may do that when you take them loose, I don't know. All the head bolts, rod bolts, and main bolts are not supposed to be reused. I think it even says it on there. They say special, but sometimes they say no reuse, but we'll get all new stuff. If that's what we do here in a little bit, we'll know what we're getting into here in a little bit. Alright, I busted all these loose, took a pry bar and kind of pried them up. Hunter's taking them out carefully. We're laying them out over there in order too, just in case something happens. I'll show you an injector here. Nothing special other than they are electronic, so we'll take a little closer look at those. They got a copper crush ring on them. That fuel tube comes in there and tightens up. Kind of laying them out in order too in case we lose something. Like I say, they are all programmed to the engine computer for sure. So, all right, we'll get this water pump housing off and bust these head bolts loose. They started in a spiral and worked their way out. So I would start here, taking them loose, come around like this.
On the outside?
Yeah,
first.
and then do what they did, I guess. Take it over here, Hunter, and set it on the table. All right, what do we see? Anything massive going on here? We know it was run without oil. Kind of looking at the head gasket. Oh, hold that head there. Looks like it was holding good. We'll look at it a little bit more. What are we looking like in here?
I'm surprised those aren't scratched in there.
It's all sparkly in there. Lots of sparkly metal. Yeah, they're not
like finished. Or
no, we'll put brand new ones in it. We gotta see what the rest of the stuff looks like.
I mean, like the cylinders.
Yeah, we'll put new liners in there. These are just wet sleeves. We'll pop those out here in a little bit. You not help me do one of these? So these liners, this is what they call wet sleeve. These will pop out and replace, and we'll get new liners and pistons. Kind of makes them nice. Like your Cummins and your Bronco is not, so it has to be bored out. But these are made where you can do what they call an end frame. You can do them in a tractor, but I find it's easier just to pull them out.
Yeah, I don't know why it wouldn't be.
Some things will do end frame on, but this is so far destroyed. That's why we did it. So, all right. Well, it's not looking terrible up here, for sure. That turbo's been sending a lot of, I see a lot of the cross hatches are gone. This motor's had a lot of dust run through it. See how those walls are all shiny there? There should be cross hatching on it there. This piston here has got a groove in it. I don't know what that's all about. Maybe been where the ring's sitting at. Yeah, we should be seeing, see right there? We should be seeing cross hatching in there.
Right.
So that's done. So this motor's ingested a lot of dirt or something. when they're glazed up like that, they won't seal. So being that turbo's out of it, and the way the air filter looked, when there's no cross hatches like that. But it was running, it just wasn't happy. So all right, what gonna start popping pistons out or what? We got a oil cooler there to take out. Oh, we want to do that.
You gotta take the starter off or no?
Yeah, we're gonna have to put this whole thing in the bath, or we can I tell you what, let's pull the pistons out and make sure we got a good core here for sure to do something with before we get too carried away there. What we got going. We got lifters down in here too. When we flip it upside down, we need to catch these lifters in here.
Right.
They don't come out. They come out.
You can't
Okay.
get them back?
No, so what we'll do, they won't come out through these holes. What we'll do, we'll flip the engine over, all the lifters will fall down, and then we can pull that cam out, and then we can suck the lifters out from underneath. So I guess we're ready to spin it over. Alright, so we got a little bit of good news. Not all of them spun actually. So this is a good bearing that didn't spin. You guys can see all these bearings have a copper inside. You can see that one was getting worn pretty bad. But it did not spin, but we did see two that spun on the rods. Find where they're at. This one here spun. You guys can see that thing's all smashed and flattened out. Should be looking somewhat like a normal. That one spun. That's probably the mate to that one. That's what one's supposed to look like. It's not, well, you shouldn't be seeing all that copper in it, but you should be seeing silver. It's got the date in there, 4/09. Makes sense. It's a 2009 tractor. What's the pistons look like? They look like 1,000-hour pistons. It's not had a happy life.
This one doesn't look too hot.
That one's got hot right there. See that blue spot?
This one's got really hot.
Yeah. These are the ones that, yeah, that one's got really hot. That's what happens. That one's got hot. So those little piston coolers, I was showing Hunter here off camera. This motor has piston coolers in there. We're being careful not to hit them. You guys can see them. We got the crank turn right down in there. There's a little piston cooler. It's basically a little snout, and it squirts on the bottom of the piston. It does two things. It keeps that piston cool so it doesn't get hot, and it kind of lubricates that rod too. But we'll inspect all those. We want to go ahead and try to knock the liners out next.
Sure.
We'll get a rubber handled hammer, try to knock those out. So these are just what they call wet sleeve. They'll have O-rings and stuff around them. So Hunter, we should go ahead and yank this crank out and get it out of our way. I've got one main cap on here. We need to take this rear main seal housing off. 2 6mm Allen bolts, and then we can set that crank out. You guys can see where it spun. There's another bearing there. Spun on this journal and spun on that journal. And so that is number 2 and number 4 it spun on for some odd reason. We'll have to investigate the pistons and see if those are the ones that got hot, but we'll have to see. And I'm more dealing make 11 thousandths undersize in this crank. I'm not sure if that will clean up or not, but yeah, I'll get that off here and we'll yank the crank out. Go. One crankshaft. Go ahead and back her on out. Just back it up and leave it hanging there. These main bearings, we got some marks on them, but they're not terrible. Two of 09. It's a standard size. I'll pop all these main bearings out. This one here is the main thrust bearing, keeps the crankshaft from working forward and backwards. I'll pop all these out. I'm pretty much trash at this point. No sense keeping them. Got a couple we can keep for part number wise.
We already got that one.
Sometimes you gotta give them a little extra. Go. Yeah. Use that rubber end of the hammer. That one come out. Got her. Got one down here. Okay. We can start knocking liners out next. You guys can see those piston oilers in there a little bit better. See them?
Yep.
Piston squirters, oilers, coolers, whatever you want to call them. Look at that cam, it don't look too bad. We'll be able to pull it out too. The lifters all fell down. How about we get the liners out next? Alright, we got some liners out. Checking for cavitation. See these little tiny holes like to start. That's what they call cavitation. Electrolyzers. Back liners, they'll make little holes. Every time that piston goes up and down, it pushes that sleeve in and out. And there's coolant on the back side, and little bubbles they burst each time, and they'll make little holes. But being this is a 1,000-hour motor, if this thing had 7, 8, 10,000 hours on it, we'd probably see some bigger holes. So, see, we've got 3 O-rings in there. So the top one will seal the coolant because there's coolant running around all those holes. And I think the second one may seal coolant, and the bottom one's an oil ring to keep the oil from splashing up. So, pretty cool, isn't it? Now you got a bare block and put new cylinders in. We're ready to yank this camshaft out, ain't we?
Yep.
You want to see if it'll start turning or pulling out there? If all the lifters fell down.
Oh, yeah.
Yep, they must have fell down. We gotta go easy here. It's the big old heavy camshaft. Kind of gotta, yeah, you kind of gotta push down that end because it's got to walk back through these bearings. Pulling out. I got fingers. Good. Tell we're gonna need cam bearings. Big old camshaft, bud.
Yeah, not small. You want this on the table?
Yeah, set it up on the end with the gear there. These bearings, I'm gonna have to replace those. I have to make a tool to drive those out and drive some new ones in. What's the cam look like?
It's kind of like what you're talking about. How it had that.
That's just rust from sitting. That's worried about. Paper towel. I'll have to clean this dude off and inspect it. It's not as bad as I'd thought it'd be. Got some stuff from sitting. But for running without oil, I'm very surprised. You what?
Replace these copper
Yeah.
metal things.
Yeah, I don't think they should be showing copper. They should be showing silver. So that's where a lot of the wear took place, was on those bearings. They should be silver looking like these main bearings. After that silver coating wears off, and then they look copper like that. So we'll have to put cam bearings in it. we'll have to make a tool. I probably don't have one. We've got a freeze plug here. We'll probably have to make something. We'll knock all these out here after a bit. Now you can poke all the lifters out of the holes, and we'll take a look at those. You can either get a big magnet and pick them up this way, or we can take a screwdriver and poke them out. So
Is this big enough?
might be. You can try it and see. Not, we can take a screwdriver from underneath, and they may have a little lip on them or something. You can get in a hole here. Got it?
Yep.
I got a little spring keeper on them I forgot here. Kind of wedges out in the hole to keep them from falling. We'll get those over there. Again, they don't look terrible. Very surprised. Looks like I cut myself and bleeding.
Yeah, it's not good, but.
Okay, we're going to get the rest of those out and do a little inspection here. That should be fine. So we got some parts in our parts washer washing. Let's measure this crankshaft. As I said before, they only make 11 thousandths under on these rod journals. They make 11 and a 22 thousandths under on the mains. So I was sitting here measuring this, and we're about, what I say, 7 thousandths under right now on this. And I can still feel more grooves in that thing right there. So I know that's not going to clean up, being they only make 11 thousandths. So I'm not even going to send that out to the shop. Another thing that worries me too, Hunter is pointing out here. You guys see how dark this is right here? This has got pretty hot here. Now they do heat treat these. You guys can see there's a purple line around there. They're just heat treating that section. This other one that's got spun the bearings on, see how it's dark right there? That's got really hot, along with this one here too. That kind of worries me a little bit. You can see the original heat treating come out to here, but this has got so hot it's kind of went back in there. Again, there's that original heat treating. So,
This is the original heat treat, isn't it?
yeah, right there, that little bit. You guys can see that's all got hot. That bothers me. I'm not gonna send that out the door, so fortunately, just scrap the crankshaft.
Yeah.
We got the camshaft and lifters and stuff in there, getting those cleaned up so we can take a better look at those. This part here is scrapped out. So next thing we need to do, Hunter, we can knock this freeze plug out. If you want to get a punch and a hammer, and we'll hit that and turn it sideways and knock it out.
Okay.
Then we're going to make a tool to knock out these cam bushings here. I know they're undersized, like I say, just from looking at them. Pretty sure they should have that silver coating on there. We can measure them and see, but at this point we're going to go ahead and put new ones in it. So yeah, if you take that punch, put it right here. I think you can turn that sideways maybe. Here's knock the whole thing in. It's fine too. Go back over here. You're knocking the last cam bearing out too. Okay, so you knocked the cam bearing and everything out there.
There you go, all in one.
All in one. So yeah, that thing should be silver. We'll get a couple measurements on that. Pretty sure they're supposed to be silver. They may not be. We'll take a couple measurements here and see what they're at. John Deere part number on there. We got the oil hole comes up on there, so that's going to be really important to get lined back up when we put them back in there so that cam gets oil. You see that there?
Yeah.
The oil hole there. Alright. So you need to go to 50. Alright, we're making a cam bearing driver. We repurposed some old rods. We'll get this thing out here, see if you guys can guess where that comes from. If anybody's been watching our channel, they might be able to guess that.
Yeah.
Alright, go ahead and turn that. So what we're doing here, we're making a shoulder to actually press that in, and then yeah, it's going to help hold it and press it. We'll probably come back here at the parting tool and make a nice square edge to drive that on there. So yeah, that's actually a chrome rod out of a cylinder. You guys can guess what machine that's out of. Comment down below. I'll get it out where you can see the rest of it here in a little bit. It's taking about a 20 thousandths cut. lower back here and we'll check it. Maybe take these bearings are wore. These bearings wasn't wore too much at all. Maybe take another 3 or 4 thousandths just for a little extra. The new bearing, maybe about 5 thousandths. Take one more cut there. Then we'll put a nice square shoulder on there so we can knock these out and drive the new ones in, and we'll be golden. Alright, Hunter got a nice square edge on there, if you guys can see that. Nothing, don't have to be perfect. So this is a 2.750 rod. Our journal size is 2.755, so that should slide in there with about 5 thousandths clearance. Now, you guys, this comes from a 300-hour machine. We had to replace the rods because it had pitting on them. See if our people can guess. Actually, Hunter was running the lathe when we did this last time. We cut the rods off of them. And
Yep.
see if you can guess what that is in the comments below. So, ready to knock some out?
I think so.
Alright, Hunter's got a super sweet cam bearing driver tool. I'll slide her in there. We already got that one out. Nice fit. You're there, ain't you?
I think so. Ready?
Yep. Got her. There's one.
Slide down to the next
Come on in, get the next one. Boom. Alright. There's another one. You're ready to go to the other side now, ain't you?
Yep.
It's a pretty sweet tool.
Yeah.
It's going to work good putting the new ones in too. I have to help you hold it on this one here. Hang on. There you go. One more. No, bud. You're overachieving there. Alright, one set of cam bearings out. That was easy, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It's nice when you got the right tools, ain't it? You just go make your own tools. Alright. We've got to get a couple more things off this block. We're going to go ahead and get the starter off. Oil cooler. Get it cleaned up. Get some plugs out for, that's an oil galley plug there. Get that all plugged up. So, or unplugged so we can put it in the parts washer. I got to get a big parts list together. It's good times. Alright, we're going through some parts here. I'm going to show you guys a couple things. Hunter's taking the last clip out there. You can pull the wrist pin out and we'll look at it.
Oops.
Yeah, that's what they call a wrist pin. I think I'll clean that up. It doesn't look bad, but I think it's got hot. So, you guys can look. I've got two of these laid out here. This is what one without the spun bearing looks like. You guys see how much darker that one is? So that's probably the mate to this one. So as we said, we had two of them spun. This is number A245. I'm guessing this is A245. So I'm going to get two new rods for these, replace those. The bearings are spun in anyway, so they're probably messed up. They don't look that bad, but they've got some heat in there. I don't like that. You can guys see where that black stuff's in there. So we're going to throw these in the parts washer over there. You guys already see we got the cam, put the cam in the parts washer, oil pan, couple timing covers, put the lifters and push rods. We're going to go inspect those, get all the white stuff off of them. It's another good rod. And this one wrist pin, it's got that darker color to it. I may consider replacing it. The other one didn't look that bad, but we'll go ahead and put them all in there, then we'll take a peek at them. Well, yeah, it's not near as bad as I thought it could be, for sure. I'll throw these down here because we're not going to use them right now. or at all. 3 more wrist pins there, Hunter. And we'll get those cleaned up. We need to put this main cap in there too and get it cleaned up again. I had it cleaned once, but I'm trying to utilize our space here. We got the rocker shaft hung up. We got the head intake hung up there. So we're going to keep on cleaning parts here. And our water's up to 154. I put those on there for about an hour. Let those all clean up good. Alright, got the parts washer running. It's been cleaning up parts there. It's looking pretty good, getting everything nice and clean. So we found a few issues. We've been measuring stuff. These 4 connecting rods will be okay. Everything measures in spec with those. I don't like what I see right there. That's actually some pitting. It's just on that one journal. The book says any pitting has got to be replaced. It's pretty deep. Some of these lifters have pitting on them, so I'm worried about what happens when that pitting starts. It actually starts taking off the that coating will start coming off there. So fortunately, I mean, if this was a high-hour machine, it wasn't going to get run very much. We might try to reuse that, but being this is only a 1,000-hour tractor, I'm going to get a new camshaft for it. John Deere says whenever you get a new camshaft, you got to use new lifters. And so I have to get 12 new lifters for that. We got the block all stripped. Got a whole pile of parts over here we got to clean up and stuff. We got most of the gaskets and stuff scraped off it. I'm hoping to set it on the end here up in the machine. Right now we got the head in there and rocker arm cover. Give you guys a little sneak peek in there. It's all hot and steamy. So we're at 142 degree water right now. We're going to let that dude keep washing away there a little bit longer. Then we're going to pop the head out and take the valves out of it to give it a good inspection here. We'll give those valves a good inspection, make sure they're alright. Got the oil pan done, cleaned up. What else? I got a laundry list of parts here I got to get. Wrote out here, we got to get a turbo. We got a new, so funny story is, that high pressure fuel pump's actually not off this engine, is it?
No.
So I had another dozer in here, had 24 hours on it. It was sitting over there when we started. High pressure pump was acting funny and it finally quit, and that's actually it there. So I took the one off this motor. It had 1,000 hours on it. Got that one going because it's sold. Area Diesel Service is getting me one rebuilt. You guys remember the last dozer, it had, I don't know, 12 hours or something on it. Had that same issue from sitting. But they've got one, it's getting rebuilt this week. I'm gonna send that one to them, get rebuilt. They're looking for a turbo for me, and I think I might be able to get my engine kit. I usually use a company called Reliance, but we're gonna get an out of frame kit, and I think I may be able to get an aftermarket crank or a camshaft. We're gonna figure out how this all goes back together.
I hope so.
It's kind of a lot smaller now, isn't it?
A whole lot smaller.
I know my parts washer only has a 500-pound limit, but I'm guessing this thing don't weigh any more than that. There's not much to them once they're stripped out, for sure. So we got all the oil galley plugs out and all that good stuff. So it's coming along. Alright, Hunter and I got the head taken apart there. Everything's looking really good. All the valve seats are looking good. It's to be expected with 1,000 hours on it, I guess. All the valves are looking good. Don't think we're going to have to do much with those. Just clean them up, inspect them a little closer. We're going to put new valve stem seals on it. This thing's going to go back in the parts washer again. Excuse me. And get everything cleaned up here. But we've got a whole slew of parts we've got to go through and clean up yet. We got to get this block all cleaned up. We've got it all stripped down, got the oil cooler and stuff off it, so I think it's going to be a good block. But other than the crank and the cam and some other high dollar parts, we'll have her made. So we're not going to bore you with cleaning all this stuff up, but if you guys want to see this dude go back together, you might consider subscribing and hitting that notification bell down there so you get a little notification when this video does pop up. And if you want to see this thing run again, you might want to hang around. So if you liked what you've seen today, what are we going to do?
Thumbs up.
Give us a big thumbs up on our video. Hit that button. It helps us out a whole bunch so we can keep doing this stuff for you. Hopefully you guys like this more detailed. I rebuilt one of these engines last year for Dirt Perfect's 850J. I kind of went over a bunch of this stuff. It wasn't in this terrible shape, of course, but anyway, we're going to get a little bit more detailed. People were asking to see some more detailed stuff, especially when it was going back together, so we'll definitely bring you guys along on that. But other than that, we've got a big old mess to clean up.
Big old mess.
We'll catch you guys next time.